All right, y'all. We're looking at the pre-quiz for topic 8. Hoping to get some clarity on what's going on with these questions. And the idea here is if you can do these questions, if you know how to answer these questions, you should be just fine on the topic 8 quiz. All right, so question number 1 is asking about the translation from black to red. All right, so that means these points on the black triangle here are the original. This one right here is our translation. So first thing we need to know is about a translation. Okay, a translation is the fancy word for a slide. All right, that's our first important piece of information. So that means what we did right here is we took this original triangle and we just moved it right up here. We slid it right up there. We didn't change the direction that anything was facing. We didn't mess around with the coordinates in terms of like trading places of X and Y or changing our positive or negative. The only thing that changed was the location itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at point A on our original one. And I noticed that point A, the X value is at 4, the Y value is at -3. All right, so I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write down that our original was at 4, 3. And when we moved it after the translation, A prime is located at 0, 4. So we went from 4, -3 to 0, 4. This is point A to A prime. All right, this is A, and this one is A prime. Okay, so when we look at our rules for translations, we notice that the only thing that changes is the location. And by that I mean we have just straight up slid this to the left and up to get to this right here. Okay, we moved 4 units to the left, and I can count on here, or I can just know the difference. We moved 7 units up. Okay, so when we're talking about the notation for a translation, we've got a big T, and we're going to have 2 numbers inside of these little brackets right here. Okay, these numbers, the first one tells us how much change there was in our X values. Okay, that's talking about how much left and right movement did we have. And the second number is going to be how much change there was in the Y values. How much vertical movement did we have? So we know that we moved to the left from here to here, we moved by 4 units. Okay, so that number is going to be 4. And the question we need to ask is that going to be a positive or -4? Now, since we're moving to the left, from our original to our new point, we move to the left. That means we're going to be moving in the negative direction. Okay, y'all know that as you go across the x-axis to the left, those numbers are getting smaller. Okay, those numbers are getting smaller and smaller and more negative as you go that way. So that means we're going to have -4 as our first number. And since we went from -3 up to +4, we moved up by 7 units. So this would be a positive number. This is the notation that we're looking for. We're looking for -4 and +7 as our 2 numbers attached to that translation. And that's what we got right there. Go on to the next one. Question number 2. Let's see. Which best describes the reflection from black to red? So this time it's the same setup. We've still got the black shape as our original, the red one as our transformed, but this time it's asking about a reflection. On this particular problem, it's kind of easy to tell that we took this triangle and we flipped it down to right here. Okay, we flipped it straight down over the x-axis. That's what my immediate guess would be if I didn't know anything about the coordinates. Okay, but I want to draw your attention anyway to these coordinates. If we were flipping over the x-axis, we would go from our original x and y to the same x but the opposite y value. Look at what happens on point B. On point B, the original was at 6 and 3. The new one, B prime, is at 6 and -3. So if that's what we were doing, we had our original x and y. We still have the same original x, but now we have the opposite of our y. All right? So that tracks with our x-axis, with our guess of an x-axis. Okay? Sometimes on a reflection, it's easy to tell. Sometimes they overlap, like we had on the notes. Okay? Pay attention to the coordinates if you're not sure about something. Question number 3. Which of these describes the reflection? All right, so this is another reflection, but you can tell just by the layout of these two triangles that this is going to be a reflection over one of those diagonal lines that we talked about. All right. Again, I'm going to pick out a point randomly on our original and compare it to the new one. We started off with point A at -3 and +4. Our new one, our A prime after the reflection, is at +4, -3. Okay, so if we're going by our x and y notation, this was our original x and our original y. When we swap them around, we have the same original y, the same as our original x. Okay, which of these fits that description? The answer is this one right here. The reflection over the line y equals x is what fits that description. Okay, we took the original x and y and we just traded places. It's exactly what happened here. So we're reflecting over that line y equals x. Okay, up next, this time we're talking about a rotation. So a rotation is where we take something and we turn it around. And there are some very specific rules of what happens in your rotation. You can kind of see on this chart right here, and that's the same chart that's on the back of your notes packet. There's some very specific rules about what happens to your original coordinates when you rotate them. Okay, so when we look at this one, our original coordinates, I'm going to pick point B. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, as I said a minute ago, but I'm going to pick point B, which is located at -4 and +2. And then I look over at B prime, which is located at +4, -2. So we ask ourselves a question. First, did our x and y numbers trade places? And the answer is no. We had a 4 and 2 in our original. We still have 4 and 2 after the rotation. But something did change. The thing that did change was both of our positive and negative signs. Okay, if we started off with this is our original x and original y, we have the opposite of our original x and the opposite of our original y after we've done that. Okay, this is the rotation that fits with 180 degrees. All right, this is a rotation of 180 degrees. It's the only way that could possibly work. Question number 5. All right, question number 5 is where we transition into the descriptive problems. Okay, instead of giving us a graph, it just gives us the description of a situation. It tells us that this point 2,5 is our original. 2,5 is translated to the right 4 and down 7. If we're doing the proper math notation, here's what that looks like. We're doing a translation of to the right 4, so +4, and down 7, so -7. And that's a translation of point A. Okay, here's what this looks like if we're actually doing the math on it. Okay, if this were on a graph, you could take this point and just count over by 4 units and then count down by 7 units. But that doesn't work because we don't have a graph right here. What we have to do is the actual algebra of it. Okay, we're going to take our x value. Here's what all this means. We're going to take this. We take our x value and add 4. This up here, we take our y value and subtract 7. So with our x value with 4 added to it, we're going to have +6. And with a y value -7, we'll have -2. +6, -2. There we go. Next question. We've got another one with point A given to us, and it tells us that it's reflected this time. All right, point A, we start off at 5, -6, and we are being reflected across the y-axis. Look at your chart if you're really worried about this. Okay, if you're really worried about this, look at your chart. We start off with our original x and y right here, and it tells us that when we change, we should end up with -x, y. Okay, that means we should have the opposite of our original x value and the same exact y value as we had before. So we're going to have the same y value, still going to be -6, but now we're going to have the opposite x value. So it'll be -5. Question number 7. We've got another reflection question. This time it's across one of those diagonal lines, y equals negative x. So we start off, we have an original point at -1, -3, and this chart right here tells us that if we're reflecting across this line, y equals negative x, that's one of our diagonal lines, we're going to take our original x and y, and we're going to trade places of those numbers. So we started off with a 1 and 3. We should end up with a 3 and 1. We just have to know what's going on with positive and negative signs. And according to this, we change both of the originals to the opposite. All right, when you reflect across this particular line, you trade the places of x and y, and you take the opposite. You change the sign on both of them. So instead of -1, -3, we're now going to have +3, +1. Our last question on the pre-quiz. Point A is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. So the first question, if we're going counterclockwise, is that going to be a positive or negative rotation? The answer is it is a positive. Look at this chart right here. If we're going counterclockwise, that is in the positive direction. That's that plus sign right there. Same thing down here. The positive direction is counterclockwise. We're rotating 90 degrees, and it's asking you for the coordinates of the new point. So we look at our rotation of 90 counterclockwise. Looking at this chart right here, we have our original x and y. Our original x and y turns into the opposite of y and x. Okay, let's look at this example. It tells us that, let's look at the problem itself. It tells us that our point is 7, 4. 7, 4. Okay, first thing, we're going to switch our x and y values. So instead of 7 in the x position and a 4 in the y position, it's going to be swapped around. And our original y value that we started with is going to become negative. Okay, so we're going to trade places of x and y and make our original y negative. So instead of +7, +4, we'll end up with -4, +7. Okay, keep in mind this x value right here, it didn't change. Okay, if we're going by this rule, the x value that we started with stayed the same. That +7 is still +7. Only the original y changed signs. All right, so there we go. That is all that we have for the pre-quiz. If you know what's going on with these problems, you should have absolutely no trouble at all when we actually take the quiz. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know, and we'll get it all figured out. All right, y'all have a good one.